Hello, everyone. This is Tatiana James.
Hey, it's Tatiana.
And we're excited to be with you guys today. This is a podcast that we're doing together. It's been a while since we've done content and content together, of course, but we've done many videos together on our YouTube channels. But we wanted to do something a little bit different where we've been contemplating doing a podcast, doing long form content. We like to listen to a lot of podcasts. That's how we consume a lot of our content, on Spotify and whatnot. And we're not sure if you guys, a lot of our videos that we've typically done on YouTube are more us just talking into the camera, more formal in many ways versus a podcast can be a little bit more conversational, more casual.
Yeah.
And so we're doing something a little bit different. And, I'm not sure if everyone that listens to us will enjoy listening to us for 2 or 3 hours, but we're going to put it up on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and also take clips from it as well and put it up on YouTube. So those of you guys that want shorter versions on certain subjects we discuss, we'll make that available also.
We wanted to do this because we like to talk to each other. We have a good time talking with each other. And
we have very deep conversations.
We just want to have some fun. We've been thinking about what does work for us look like moving forward. And, Steph and I are in a bit of two different situations, but we both just want to have fun with what we do. And that's the beauty and the blessing of being in this position that we're in right now. We don't have to work with the same motivations that we had in the past. Now we're really just thinking of it like, what will bring me joy? What is going to be, fulfilling and fun, and what's something I'm excited to do every day? And so we want to give this a shot. We think that this might be fun, and you let us know what you guys think.
Yeah, we've both been YouTubers for a long time. Many of you guys know that we've both taken breaks from publishing content, and even being, at least for me, being on Instagram, Facebook, taking a big break as a content creator. And, for us getting back into it, which is something that, we're not going to necessarily commit. We can't commit to a certain schedule. It still might be more casual, infrequent, every once in a while when we're inspired to, but we've gotten both to the point where we want to enjoy what we're doing, as you said. We want to be passionate about it. We want to share things that are relevant to us in our lives, rather than just talking about some of the same things that you feel like you need to talk about because what gets views, or that you're kind of in that niche and people expect how to sell on Amazon, and you got to talk about it year after year after year, some of the same things. After a while, that becomes less enjoyable, less inspiring, especially if you're not in that same place that you were, or maybe those that are at that beginner stage is.
And dare I say less authentic, because for myself, like my YouTube channel was all about Amazon. That's how I started it, was to share with you guys the journey of my success. I built a really successful brand and business, and I shared with you guys all the things that I learned. And because I was in it, I was, building it. It was authentic for me to create that content, and it performed well. But I sold that business, and I've moved on in my life, and I'm not doing it on Amazon anymore. And so for me to go back and create the same kind of content again, it just feels inauthentic and not enjoyable for me. Now, that's not to say that I'm not going to be talking about business or talking about e-commerce. I still will, but it's different. I'm not going to be creating the same content that I did, because that content is still up there. It's still available. It's still valuable. And I encourage you guys to go back and watch that if that's the type of stuff that you need.
Yeah. So what we're going to do today is a few things we're going to dive into. We'll each kind of share what we've been up to, what's been going on in our lives. I know many of you guys have been curious. We'll be talking about parenthood, our little boy Lucas. We're going to be talking about our house that we're in right now, the house that we've been building for the last 2 years or so here in Panama, our dream home.
People are very curious about that. Why Panama and all these questions about Panama.
Yeah, and we can get more into specifics, based on a Q&A or things like that if you guys want to dive more deeper into certain subjects. But our house is still being built. We'll get more into that, but you might hear some construction noises in the background. We're actually in our guest house right now, which we've kind of set up as a bit of a podcast studio. It's amazing. We're looking out at the beach right now. We got our swimming pool around us. We'll have to share some clips on social media, but also we want to do a video at some point giving a tour of the house, but it's not quite there yet. But in terms of just what to expect, this is content that you can find from us Yes, on YouTube, on the Project Life Master YouTube channel, Tatiana James on YouTube. But also, if you do listen to podcasts, you can go to Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. We're going to also throw this content that we do together up there as well. And you can just search for Project Life Mastery or Tatiana James. Subscribe so that you can get notified of when audios, podcast, videos come out. Like I said, it might be infrequent. It might be whenever we have time, whenever we want to. It's going to be a little bit different than before when we're every single week putting out videos.
Because we're not doing it like we need to grow and we need to get X amount of subscribers. It's not about that. So for us, we're just going to put out the content when we feel like it, when we feel like recording it, and that's that. And you just,
So what is it about for you now? Where are you at? We can go a little bit deeper into that, but where are you at right now? And especially in terms of your business and being an influencer, being a content creator.
Well, of course, everything has changed in my life. I have become a mother for the first time, and that completely shifted my value system. Right. And so, well, guys, I also turned 30 like last week.
Yep. Happy birthday.
So I'm in a new decade now.
Yeah.
And it's interesting turning 30. I actually have never, felt any negative emotion towards birthdays. I celebrate my birthday. I think it's amazing. Another year, because it's another year that I've gained wisdom, knowledge, I've grown, and I have another year of life. So I thank God for that. But anyways, turning 30 I got to this point of deep reflection because I'm like, wow,
reevaluate
10
things.
years of my life, because the last 10 years have been very significant. In the last 10 years, I met Stefan. I was 20 years old when I met him. And that was like an incredible.
So we've almost been together 10 years coming up in May.
Almost 10 years, guys. Which, by the way, guys, if I may say so, one of the reasons that I want to do this podcast with Stefan is because I personally find so much value in discovering couples who are creating content online, because there's not a lot of couples doing this. And I always think that it's good to have references in your life, especially, people who can be positive role models when it comes to relationships. So I do think that there are going to be people who feel the same way. And so, I mean, we've been together 10 years and we've learned a lot through that experience so far, especially the last 10
So you've shared pretty much a whole decade of your 20s with me.
Yes, exactly. And so anyways, starting 20, and then I, discovered building my business, and I built that business, and, I became very successful with that business. I became a millionaire by 23, multimillionaire by 24. And I don't say that to boast, but because it really is obviously
Incredible.
A very big deal for me. That changed my entire life. It changed my view on what's possible. And then, and just traveled the world with you, literally had so many amazing experiences while growing my business. I didn't have to choose one or the other because it's online, and that's the beauty of online business. That's why I'm such an advocate for online business. And we got married, and now we have a son, beautiful baby Lucas. He's 10 months old now, and he is the greatest joy in my life. I seriously...
It becomes your life, essentially.
Yeah, he is my life. But I get so much joy just from looking at him. I don't know if every mom... I'm sure every mom feels this way.
The hormones, oxytocin.
But not even just that. I just look at him and he gives me the biggest smile. It's not, it's a big smile or no smile at all. And he just beams. And then I just every day feel so much joy through having him. And it's such a beautiful experience. But because of this, everything's changed in my life now. My values have changed. And so I've been trying to figure out, what do I want to do? I'm out of the thick of having a newborn, which is a very challenging time, and maybe we can talk about that later. But now he's 10 months old, and I have more time on my hands. I have more flexibility, availability, and I'm trying to figure out, do I want to get back into my business? And if so, what's that going to look like? And I came to the conclusion that for me, being a mom is my top priority. I want to dedicate my time to being a mother, but I also get a lot of value from being a content creator. And I like who I get to become as a content creator because I get to really grow from the experience. When I teach something, I learn it twice. And so I find myself trying to learn things more. I read more books. I listen to more podcasts. I do more because I know in the back of my mind that I might teach something.
You're always doing that. That's been your nature, to always be learning, growing.
Yeah.
So this gives you an outlet to share.
Exactly. And so I realized like that's the greatest value that I get from what I do as a content creator. You know, aside from, you know, the money and the flexibility, all of that, of course that's great, but really personally I get to grow. And because I've been away from that for like 10 months, I haven't really created content. I noticed that, I mean, I've been busy raising a baby, but I've noticed that like I crave getting back into that type of growth, right? And so I want to continue doing content, but now it's going to be different. You know, it's not the same motivations and intentions as I had before. I'm not trying to get X number of subscribers and trying to build a business. Now it's like, I'm just going to create content purely because I want to, and I'm just going to talk about things that I'm interested in. Yeah. And so that's, you know, how this podcast is coming about now.
Yeah. And I think that's what is the most authentic way of doing it. Otherwise, I think, you know, when you're first building a YouTube channel or a podcast or building a business in general, you have to really kind of focus on what people want, identify your niche, stay within that niche. You have to really try to deliver a certain type of content that allows you to get the most attention, the most views, the most growth, the most subscribers. You have to nurture that audience. There's a lot that goes into building something to that point. But I think you're at a point now, and myself, where, because I think if you're always just doing that and you kind of stay restricted within that niche and this is what you need to talk about, but you've outgrown that, then it's very difficult to sustain that. And
you get fatigued.
You have to evolve your show, your podcast, your YouTube channel. It has to be in alignment with you and the stage of development and where you are. And so part of that might mean that you might lose subscribers. You know, some of you guys listening might be at a different stage of where Tatiana is or where I am. And so you might not be as interested in some of the things that we're talking about, but you're either then always trying to cater to, you know, certain things from your past, which are inauthentic, or you have to decide, you know, I'm going to evolve. My subscribers will evolve. I'll attract new subscribers. But at the end of the day, I mean, you're a human being and there's different stages of development that you go through, and you are your business essentially. And so it has to evolve in order for it to be sustainable. Otherwise, you know, that's why both of us kind of took a big break from it as well. Cause you know, it's kind of tiring talking about the same things over and over again. If you're not doing it, if you're not in those trenches, if you can't relate to it, if it doesn't give you joy anymore. And so you have to make it sustainable.
And not just us, you know, there's a ton of content creators, YouTubers who they have built up this huge subscriber base, put a lot of time and effort into it. And all of a sudden you just see them stepping away from that business and you wonder what the heck happened? Why would they just walk away from all of this? And they just got fatigued. And it's because of exactly what you said. You know, you're continuing to create content and trying to continue to do the things that you were doing before, and you're really trying to just create things for others, which you need to do in the beginning, don't get us wrong, but at a certain point you have to create what makes you happy. Otherwise what are you doing it for?
And I think a lot of people, they've never we haven't really experienced long careers as content creators and influencers because it's a relatively new career. I've been doing it now for 12 years. You know, back in 2012, that's when I started Project Life Mastery. So for me, it's been over 12 years since I started, and I've changed and I've grown tremendously since then. I'm in a very different stage of where I was when I was first starting, when I was talking about, I remember, you know, when I was just kind of in those earlier stages, making money, Kindle publishing, you know, building my blog and all that sort of stuff. I don't have that same focus. I don't need to at this stage. I don't need to like try to make money doing the things that I was doing before. It doesn't need to be as much of a focus or emphasis for either of us. And I think part of it too is we both, I think, achieved a certain level of success where we're both privileged to have become financially free. Like we've both gotten to a point where we've saved enough, we've invested enough, our net worth is at a certain number where we literally never have to work another day of our lives. We never have to make any more money from any active business activity. We've built our nest egg, we've built our assets. They're producing passive income for us that will continue for decades and decades and decades, a much more sustainable source of passive income than what a business provides, which still kind of depends on someone, but through our real estate, through our stocks, our ETFs, our index funds, all of that. And so it's amazing to get to that point, and I think very few people ever do. And when you get to a point of that financial abundance and freedom, one of the greatest benefits that that provides for you is it makes you reevaluate your life and determine, look at everything that you're doing and ask yourself, do I really want to do this? Like, is this something that I really want to do right now? Like, do I really want to do this, or am I just doing this because it's what makes me money, or is what caters to my audience, my subscribers, my business? And in many ways, a business, a YouTube channel, a podcast, it actually inhibits someone's freedom, because you've kind of now created this identity for yourself that you are this person, and you've have this pressure and this responsibility to subscribers and your audience to put out content on an ongoing basis. And it's very difficult then walk away from that for several months, because it kind of traps you in a way.
You put yourself in a box.
And the same thing I found even with my business before, when I had 15 employees, it kind of also limits your freedom, because you have to keep the vision going. You have to drive and lead the business forward. You have to always create projects and work for your employees to do. You have to pay them. You have to keep them engaged. You have to manage them. And so, it doesn't really necessarily allow you to say, you know what, tomorrow, I don't want to have a business. I want to go off and travel Thailand for a couple months or whatever. Like, no, you have this responsibility that you have to. I think in many ways that the point I'm getting to is like the point we've gotten to. It's really interesting when you get to this point of financial freedom, because it makes you reevaluate everything. And you're like, yeah, do I really want to create another YouTube video on, how to get started selling on Amazon for the 20th time? Even though I know that's what's going to get a lot of views, people are going to love it, people want that, they ask you for it, but you're like, well, like, do I really want to do that? No, what I really want to do is do a podcast, talk about what I want to talk about, share things that I think are interesting, what I'm learning, how I'm growing. And sure enough, there'll be people, of course, that will be interested in that, because you're still sharing a lot of value, but it's kind of, people can follow along your evolution.
Yeah, and the general rule of thumb when you are creating content is that when you are starting off from zero, you need to start niche. You need to figure out what it is that you're going to create content about, and create short form videos, and you build yourself up, because when you're first starting out, nobody is going to invest 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour of their time to listen to you when they don't know what value it is that you have to share. So you want to start niche, you want to start small, but as you start to build out your following, your subscriber base, then you have more of an opportunity to broaden the subjects that you're talking about and create longer form content. And so here we are today where, I can't tell you how many times I have people who want me to just talk about all these random things that have nothing to do with the niche that I started off in, because they just want to know more about my life and what I'm doing. They're just curious. And so we get this opportunity now to talk about different things, which is really beneficial for us, because again, we want to talk about things that we're actually interested in and not be stuck in a box.
Yeah. And there's always, for us, we both always had, there's like a core base of followers, subscribers. They're really interested in you, and they're interested in me, and they want to listen to things like this. And then there's the more casual subscribers, I'd say, the people that would, the videos that you do that get hundreds of thousands or millions of views, people that watch your content once in a while, but they're more in it just for that content related to business or whatever it might be. They might not be interested as much just in that. And that's okay. And one thing that I think that's very freeing about being in a position now and how we're going about this is we don't care about money. We don't care about views, subscribers, all of that. We both know if we wanted to get a lot of views, if we want to get a lot of subscribers, we know the formula for that. We know the recipe for that. We know the topics, we know the headlines, we know the thumbnails and all that. But that's not our goal. We're not opposed to that. We're not opposed to, I'm sure money and subscribers, all that will come, but we're not as much obsessed as we originally were when we first started to publish what's going to get the most views. And it's nice to be content with that and satisfied just with, whoever wants to listen is what, who listens.
Well, I'm sure that who's listening is probably like, oh, that must be really nice. It must be really nice to be in that position.
Well,
and it is, it's true. Like, I get that. But that's that's the goal, right? The goal is to get to this place where you can just authentically do what you want to do when you want to do it. And, again, like the motivations for starting our businesses in the beginning was a need. There's a need to make money. There's a need to get out of the survival
Trying to
mode.
create success. Yeah.
Exactly. And now we just don't have those same motivations anymore. So yeah, it is nice, you know, to be frank, it is nice to be in this position, but we work to get here. This is the result, not of just some fluke, some accident, you know, stumbling into success. This is the result of being laser focused and being very clear on what it is that we want for our lives. It's the result of having a clear vision of what we want for our lives, and then breaking that down into specific goals and achieving those goals and working our way towards that vision. And this is a shared vision. Stefan and I, when we first met 10 years ago almost, we sat down and we said, what do we want for our lives? How do we want that to look? And we both talked about having the dream of living on a beach and being free. And literally that's what we manifested here right now. And it didn't manifest just because we said we wanted it. It manifested because we knew we wanted it. We got the clarity, but then we also took actionable steps over the years to work towards this. So
it didn't happen by accident. It was very intentional, planned. A lot of hard work went into it. It wasn't just luck. It's not like it just fell out of the sky into our lap. But it was.
And also a lot of good decisions. I think that's one thing I want to emphasize is that, you know, there are some decisions in your life, there are many decisions in your life that when you make that decision, that will change the trajectory of your life. And so you really got to weigh that decision carefully and decide where it is that you want to go. And that's why it's always really good to have in your mind, you know, what is the vision? What's the end goal? Because when you're faced with this decision, you say, well, which path is this going to take me down? Is it going to get me closer to my goal or further away from it? And that's how you make the decision, and then you feel confident in making that decision.
Yeah, every decision that you make, you want to make sure it's in alignment with who you want to be and the life you want to create and the vision that you have. And it comes from the little decisions that you make every single day, you know, waking up, doing your habits, your rituals, your routines, working on your business, reading books, what you consume, to the bigger decisions of what,
moving to another country.
Moving to another country, whether you start a business, whether you drop out of school.
Whether you start a family, you don't.
All those things make up where you're going to be. And even for both of us, we went down a different path that is unconventional. You know, many people, you know, we both were fed the go to, you know, school, get a degree, get a job, that sort of path. And it was very difficult to make the decision that was against that and go down a different path and the reason why we did is because we realized that path was not going to lead us to where we want to be. You know, it was going to provide for us getting a job, nothing wrong with that, but it would not have provided for us the life that we really wanted and what we desire. To live in a multi-million-dollar home on the beach in Panama, to have a home in Vancouver, to have a home in Sun Peaks. You're not going to make that happen through going to school and getting a job. You know, so we went down a very different path, and it was all based on what we wanted and getting that clarity, and then just making sure the decisions we made were in alignment with where we want to be.
Yeah.
And so over a decade, this is the result.
Yeah. And sure, that came with taking on risk. Yeah. And I think that you have to realize, embolden yourself in life, that I'm going to take some risks in my life, because oftentimes when I take those risks, there's some great rewards to be had. And so for us and myself, you know, I dropped out of university. I could have thought like, well, this is a lot of time, a lot of money that now is going to be wasted. Why don't I just finish up and get my degree so that I could, you know, fall back on that if I need to, fall back on that if my business doesn't work out for me. But I made the decision that no, I'm going to build a business. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to figure out how it works. And if it does, you know, not succeed the first time, then I'm going to try again, because there is no failure, because you're learning from every single experience. And myself personally, when I started with online business, the first thing that I did was I learned Kindle publishing from your course. I actually took Stefan's course and went through it and published my own books. And that's how I made my first dollar online. And that was extremely eye-opening for me, because I was like, I didn't even know people make money online at the time. Like, I didn't have a computer at the time. I was so naive. But I made my first dollar, and I pretty soon was making like a couple $100s a month. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. I was still in school at the time. I was still working at the restaurant. but I was now making income online, and that was just eye-opening. And I think for anyone watching who's experienced that, who's made their first dollar online, that is one heck of a powerful dollar. It's not just a dollar. It has so much meaning behind it. It's a metaphor. And then that led me to, you know, the physical products business, Amazon FBA. And, you know, started there and made a product, and that first product, you know, it did okay, but it's not like I made money from it. I just kind of recouped back my investment. But then that led me to a second product, and that second product was better because of all the experience that I had from putting out that first product. And I made a little bit more money with the second product, but, you know, didn't make my millions. And that led me to a third product that was even better because of all the prior experience. And that product, I built a brand around, and that product made me my millions. Yeah. And so you never want to just give up after the first failure, because that's just your learning experience. You're only going to fail if now you just give up and it goes to waste.
Yeah. I think both of us, we both, like, at least for me, but like I knew that this was the only way forward for me in my life, because I hated school. Like, I was so happy to get out of high school. Like, I barely graduated high school. I never did homework. I never studied. I skipped a lot of school. So I just like barely scraped by. I did just the bare minimum to actually graduate. And because it was such a painful experience for me, like going to university was just like,
well, you
was
probably
just out
would
of the
even have
question.
gotten accepted.
No, I did one semester, one class, Introduction to Marketing at Kwantlen College in Richmond, British Columbia. But I didn't even show up for the final exam. I was just like, it's just not for me. Like, I don't learn just by sitting there in a classroom, trying to retain information.
Yeah.
Like, I need to do, like, I realized, like, when I compared that to an online business and just the courses that were available, I could learn exactly what I need to know that's relevant, and I can actually learn by doing and applying it. I can sign up for a course, tells you what to do in one video. You go and set up the account, you take the action, you go back to video number 2, tells you the next thing to do. You do like, it just made more sense. But also the potential, the opportunity, everything that was available was just so much more attractive for me than the path of school or working at a job. And the same thing, like, I can never work for someone. Like, you know, I haven't had many jobs in my life. I worked in the family business, and I worked at a car dealership, and I sold cutlery, Cutco, for a bit, and just none of that. I was like, I just can't be told what to do and just work in that.
But
so all of that, like, I knew that this was the path, and it would work, even in spite of all the failures I had, because I had many. It didn't matter. I was so committed because I knew the rewards were so much more valuable than quitting and any other path that I could go. So there was no other path for me that made any sense or would motivate me whatsoever.
But, you know, so that's you, you know, and there's a segment of people who are just like that, who cannot be employed. They need to be entrepreneurs. They need to be their own boss. They need to be in charge and to not have someone telling them what to do every day. And then there's a segment of people who like to have to be employed. They like to not have to think about different things. They like to kind of just do the same thing day in, day out. And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. We need that in our society. We need both. And there's room for both. Yeah. But what you talked about with the you know, how you couldn't sit in school and it was just so hard for you to be in a classroom. That is something that so many kids relate to. I also really didn't like school, but I was quite good at school, but I had to work really hard at it. But it's just the schooling system, the education system is very outdated. You know, this is 20th century education system where we are teaching kids to kind of become factory workers. You sit down when you're told, you don't talk to your classmates, you know, do this test, and it's just the system needs to change because kids don't really learn that way. The system was
designed for the Industrial Revolution, and it was designed to produce workers, not thinkers. Yeah. Right? And basically people that could follow orders, people that could work in the factories and do what they're told. That's kind of what they needed at that time and how the education system evolved.
Exactly. And so, you know, we're not against going to school. We're not against getting an education. But, you know, when it comes to our son Lucas, for example, people might be curious, are you going to encourage him to go to university? Are you going to encourage him to get, you know, a diploma? And the answer is probably not. If he wants to pursue something like becoming, an engineer or a doctor or a scientist or something like that, where, there's really a lot of information that you need to learn in school, then yeah, that's the path for you. But if he wants to pursue business or do something artistic, forget about school. You don't need school. You don't need to be in that system, because I actually think it would hinder his progress. I actually think it would close him off from his potential, because it makes him do things a certain way instead of him discovering how he wants to do things.
It stifles creativity. And I think, whatever he wants to do, it's ultimately his choice, whatever's going to make him happiest. But I think the thing is, most kids, and especially for us when we grew up, we didn't know there's other options, right? So it's almost like you're indoctrinated to believe from the very beginning, you got to go to school, get good grades, graduate, go to university, get a student loan, get your degree, get a job. Like that was what was sold. That was what was encouraged. That was what was pushed and promoted and sold. And I think for most people today, we live in a very different world. The future is going to be very different.
Well, most kids grow up now wanting to become influencers.
Yeah, being a YouTuber is like the number one, thing they want to be.
So different.
Yeah, so it's very different, and there's so many more options that are now available than ever before because of the internet. AI is going to provide even more options. And so for a lot of people growing up into this world, it's like, if you're to use some common sense, not unless you really want to be a lawyer, engineer, scientist, etc., then sure, maybe the path of university makes sense. But a lot of people, I think now, that are using some critical thinking and evaluating the options and looking at, if I go down this path, where does that get me? If I go down that path, where does that get me? Because also, it's very different because the cost of living is so much higher today. And the cost of wages has not gone up as much as the cost of housing, the cost of living, inflation. And so it's like, why, you're going to get in all this debt, go to school to get a job, and you're not even going to be able to afford to even actually live, and especially now in families, both men and women would have to work in order to also live. So it's just not as attractive to go down that path.
And I personally think it's borderline criminal how much they're charging kids to get an education. Why on earth is someone going to graduate, a young person just starting their adulthood, graduate from university with $50,000-$100,000 in debt or more? That just makes no sense whatsoever, and is unfortunately very disheartening for people. They're starting off their life in a massive amounts of debt. Yeah,
and if you were to take, the way that I always logically looked at it is that because I didn't invest all the money to go to university, my education, my university was through books, mentors, coaches, seminars, online courses. It was to learn from people. I always thought it made more sense to learn from people that actually have the results that I want. And they've created a course, or they've written a book, or their mentorship or seminar, and I can learn directly from them. And it's 100% relevant to where I'm at, what I'm trying to accomplish, my business, etc. And so I invested a lot into my own education, much more than somebody that probably goes to university. I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars now to myself. But it's very strategic. And the way I always looked at it is, it's a better ROI. Because if I invest all this money for many years going to university, and at the end of it, I learn a bunch of stuff that I can't even really remember, but I did get a degree, and it does lead to a job and making a certain income. For me, the value of that, the ROI, doesn't really make as much sense as opposed to the ROI of taking that money, strategically investing it in courses and information, then also applying it, getting results from it. And so the results and the money that I make from it can then be reinvested also into my growth and my development. And so I'm not in debt at the end of it. I never got into any debt really in my pursuit of getting to where I'm at.
But also, doing what you did, you're investing in the education that you're interested in. And that's why you're retaining it,
That's why I hated school, because I was like, why do I have to learn this? Why am I doing this? It's not relevant for my life in any way.
I've forgotten most of what I learned in university. I hate to say it, but I have, because I'm just not interested in it. You're not going to really retain something unless there's some interest there, or unless you hammer it into your head.
And most people that do get their degree for whatever it is don't even end up getting a career in that field that they studied.
Exactly.
Like they changed their mind. I had so many friends went to school for accounting, they got their degree,
Well,
and now they're like doing something totally different because they realize that's not for them.
so there is an argument that the reason you go to school and the reason why you do all these different classes, why they encourage you to take all these different classes and some of them are required, is to branch out and try different things so that you can figure out what it is that you're interested in. And
It's at a
that's
big cost,
important
though.
because as a kid, you don't really know. You don't know if you have a hidden talent that you have yet to discover because you've never had the opportunity to go out and play, floor hockey, or, you're artistic or whatever it may be. So it gives you an opportunity to explore different fields. But my argument is that you could do that just in everyday life. And when you look at kids who are homeschooled, and they encourage kids who are homeschooled, they're out playing in the garden, they're traveling, they're doing different things as part of their education. They outperform kids in traditional schooling system every single time. If you actually look at what the research shows on homeschooling, they're outperforming kids in traditional schooling. And I think a big part of it is because they're learning things that they're interested in. And you don't want to underestimate the kids and think, oh, they're not going to apply their minds to things that are difficult, like mathematics and geography and what science and whatnot. But no, a lot of kids actually, when they are able to pick it up and choose the subject that they're interested in, they will learn it and absorb it a lot quicker.
Yeah, I think like there's definitely value in still going to school. Like you learn great things. Don't get me wrong, but I still challenge the value that you get from it as opposed to some other alternative ways of learning and educating yourself.
Yeah.
But also, I think not everybody is able to be like self-motivated and self-disciplined. Like they kind of need a structured university system that guides them along, rather than for me, I did my own education self-directed.
Yeah.
I'm going to take this, I'm going to learn this, I'm going to pick up this book, etc. And many people might not do that, right? And so, but I do wonder whether or not that is also the result of there's a level of conditioning and programming that takes place in the education system from the time you're a kid, going to kindergarten. You're kind of in a way taught and conditioned and programmed to not be able to direct yourself, and just kind of needing this structured system that guides you along. And I think even many people, they struggle with maybe the idea of being an entrepreneur because they need someone, as you said, to tell them what to do and give them the assignments and give them the project, and then they can work within that. But I wonder how much of that is because of the programming and conditioning that has existed at a young age.
And maybe because you hated school and you skipped so much school, you were able to avoid the programming and developed a critical thinking mind on your own.
Maybe. Yeah. No, it's really interesting to discuss and to, I think there's a lot of alternatives, and that's what's exciting today. There's many other alternative ways of living, many other alternative ways of education. And these are all things, for us has kind of shifted now being parents, because now we think about these things for Lucas and how he's growing, how he's developing. It makes you question everything that's been told to you.
Yeah.
And you evaluate it and use critical thinking. You get different viewpoints. You can hear other people's experiences. Homeschooling, unlearning is like another field.
Well, the key is the critical thinking. I know we've highlighted this quite a bit, but like the key is the critical thinking, because you do have to question everything. And the more critical thinking I do, the more I realize that usually what is popular or what's common or what's the norm is oftentimes not really what's the best option. Yeah. And so a lot of the things that I do and, the way that I've chosen to raise Lucas and the decisions I've made in my life have not followed what is the norm and have skewed away from that, because I've looked at things and I think that you don't really get to make a decision on something until you see it from all the different sides. Maybe there's one side, there's two sides, maybe it's multifaceted, and you have to think of all the possibilities. And then from that point, you can make your decision on what your view and what your perspective is. Because until you can step outside of your current view and put yourself into the shoes and see things from a different perspective, you're not really seeing things for how they are. And that makes it very hard to make to make a decision based on the reality of the situation versus making a decision based on just your current view.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's where the self-education, why it's so valuable, is because, with the growth mindset, being curious, you're always exploring different ideas. You're learning about things. And with the knowledge that we both gained through self-development and everything we've done, I mean, it's allowed us to think very differently than most people.
Yeah.
And that's one of the greatest blessings that it provides and that allows you to make better decisions, different decisions than most people as well. But I think it's getting out of the conventional wisdom, the conventional reality that's sold to you, that's propagated to you, and explore other theories, other ideas, being open-minded to that. And I think that's one of the things that the internet's provided. Podcasts, for example, have also provided for us books. Because otherwise, if you're just getting all your information from the government, the news, mainstream media, the education system, you're only kind of being sold one perspective or idea versus exploring all the other ideas that exist. And you often get that through more alternative forms of content and being self-educated.
And when you do that, you empower yourself quite a bit. I think sometimes people feel like, well, I don't know what the right decision is. I'd rather be told what to do. But you need to educate yourself more, consume different perspectives, and that empowers you to create your own. And I've learned that it's beneficial to have a healthy level of skepticism.
Yeah.
For me, I found, especially over the last few years, of how it's good to just question, what is, and question if that is the way you want things to be for yourself, or if that's the view that you want to adopt.
Yeah. Well, going back to the education, I think one thing, you're saying how it's important to explore, and, the school kind of allows you to, and at least should be intended to have kids explore different things that might interest them and what they might be passionate about, what they want to pursue, etc. But at the same time, it's really difficult to fully know that at a young age. Like, I think it's kind of crazy that there's so much pressure in our society that once you graduate from high school at 18 years old, you should know what you're going to do for the rest of your life.
But that's how it used to be. My uncle, he graduated from his university and he started a job at Microsoft. Like AOL, or I don't know, one of those things. And he had that job for the rest of his life. He retired now and he had that one job. So that's how it was in the past for our parents and our grandparents. But that's not how things are anymore.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, it's very difficult for you to know. At 18 years old, you haven't experienced much of life, just based on what you've explored up until that point, that you're now going to make a decision to get into $50,000, $100,000 of debt, because once you make that level of decision and that risk, it's like, wow, like that's a lot to have the pressure to make a decision on. And there's that pressure because, when you're 18, you feel like, oh, I need to, all my other friends, everyone else, my parents that are putting pressure on me, all my other friends seems like they know what they're going to do in their life. But like, how often is it that people do, decide, okay, I want to be an engineer. I go to school, all this money, all this time. And then they realize at the end of it, they're like, this is not really what I'm passionate about. This is not really what I want to do. But then you kind of now feel like, well, I have to, because what else am I going to do? I'm going to go back to school.
Yeah.
I have all this debt. I got to pay off this debt. I have to now get a job in this field because that's what I'm educated for. And that's, where I can make my money. But it doesn't encourage people to do what's going to make them the happiest, the most joyful, authentic, living their life with purpose and all that sort of stuff. Versus I'm more of a believer of, and this is what I did when I graduated, because I did not see myself going to school. It was just continuing self-development. Self-development for me became much more important than going to school, because self-development is really where you learn about yourself. What do I want for my life? What, reading different books, traveling. I started traveling to Southeast Asia and I traveled by myself and I gained a tremendous education through that and seeing different ways of living. And I didn't have that pressure that I need to go to school and especially with a decision that would be that significant. I work different jobs and I think that's okay. I find young people when they reach out to me, they're struggling with finding out what they want to do, what's their purpose, what's their mission. It's like, you don't need to have all that pressure on yourself to have it figured out at that age. Just allow yourself to go through the buffet of life, try different things, explore, grow, go to seminars.
They feel the pressure because they feel like they need to now invest in university, and that's a lot of pressure when you know you're going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, right? I had that same experience when I went to university. The first year, I decided I was going to study sciences because I wanted to become a doctor, because that's what I was pressured to do, right? But then I was like, I don't want to be in school for 12 years and I hate math. And so then I changed to political science. And then after 3 years, I was like, I hate politics. Like this, like I don't like talking about this stuff. And that's, thankfully, that's when I met you, and you opened me up to the possibility of online business. And I always had an interest in business, but I never went in that direction. But after actually starting my business, and now in hindsight, I see how much that really suited me, how really entrepreneurship was always the path that I was meant to go on. But I think that the reason why a gap year exists, and a lot of kids, they do that, they graduate high school and then they take a year or so to travel the world, is to do exactly what you're doing. Is that process of self-discovery, traveling, getting that cultural education, growing in maturity. And from there, then you can get more clarity on who you are and what your interests are, and then the path that you want to go on. And a lot of parents worry when the kids take a gap year that they might never go back to school. And that might be the case, but maybe that is the blessing in disguise.
Yeah, for sure.
So why don't we transition?
Yeah, how about we, that's a really good discussion. This is the benefit of a long form podcast. We can get really deep and enjoy having discussions about things that we're both interested in.
You tell me what you have been up to. Tell me about this house in Panama.
Yes,
tell me what's been going on with building this house.
Yeah, so that has been a massive, massive undertaking. Man, where do I start with that? So as many of you guys know, we made a decision. We've been in Panama since 2018 is when we got our residency here. And we were not, we were uncertain about this being a forever destination, long-term destination. We're digital nomads for several years, traveling all over the world. Panama was our home base. We're originally from Vancouver, Canada. So I'd go back there once in a while. But we fell in love with this community here in Panama, a beach community. And we originally were planning to move to the U.S.
Yeah.
We were in the process of getting our visas there, investor visas. We set up a company there, invested a lot of money, lawyers, all of that sort of stuff.
We really were almost at the end of the process of getting those visas. So we put a lot into that. We were very certain about moving
invested
to the U.S.
a lot. Yeah, we spent a lot of time in the U.S. We went to many different open houses, checked out different areas, started in Los Angeles. Looking down Orange County, we looked into...
Which, by the way, if I can say, we spent so many years building our vision of what it is that we want. We started off in California. Every time we'd go to California, we'd go to all these open homes in different neighborhoods. We visited so many houses. At first, every house seemed like, oh my God, this is gorgeous. But then we figured out what it is that we want in a house, what we don't care for. And we just honed in on what that vision is.
We still have... when you go to an open house,
listing.
They give you like a little listing sheet.
Yeah, we still
or
have
sometimes
those.
they give you like a brochure and like all
now
that.
Now we can see how much cheaper houses were when we first were looking.
Yeah, so we still have we collected all those. We looked at so many different areas.
I have a picture where we went to this one house. I think this might have been one of the first ones that we went to in California. And there's this gorgeous walk-in closet with a bench. And I sat there, and I have this picture where I'm sitting like this, like imagine myself in that closet doing my hair and makeup. And I was like, this would be a dream. And guys, my closet is amazing. Right now, my closet in this house, it's so amazing. I don't even have enough stuff to fill it up, but I just love being in there, doing my makeup, and it really is a dream. Yeah,
so a lot has gone into getting us to this point. And that provided a lot of motivation. That process, by the way, of just really being honed in on your vision, but then getting a little taste of it, whether you just go in open houses, it just expands, because every house we went to, we're like, wow, let's go to houses that are $3 million, $5 million, $10 million homes. It just blows your mind, because it provides for you that motivation to build your business, to work harder, to live in a home like what you're getting a taste of experiencing just as you visit them.
Yeah.
And so for us, we explored LA, we explored Orange County. We explored the San Fernando Valley, Encino, Sherman Oaks. We explored then Scottsdale, Arizona. We explored Hawaii, Honolulu, Oahu, and yeah, like we really did a lot of research and went to these places, visited them, and did a lot of dream building at each of these places. But we decided on Panama when we came. We were actually, our ultimate goal and dream was to live on the beach. That was like the very beginning vision that we both had since the day we met. We love the beach. We love the ocean. Living beachfront would be like an incredible dream come true.
We thought maybe that would be down the line in our 40s or 50s or 60s. We didn't think that the first home would be
So we were looking like we're more leaning towards, I think, Scottsdale. But then we were like, well, if we eventually just want to live on the beach, why not just go for that now? Like why? Because originally I was like, oh, we're going to live in somewhere like Scottsdale or LA for a couple of years, and then eventually get the beachfront house and live that kind of life. But then we're like, well, why don't we just go for like Hawaii? Like we loved it there. We were so happy there. We
Hawaii
looked at
is
homes
just
on
so
the beach.
magical. Like it's green and it's turquoise and it's lush and it's vibrant and the people are energized and happy, and there's a magic to be in Hawaii, and it's contagious. And so we loved that, and we loved the nature. We realized that we really need to be around nature. We need to be in a place that has proximity to the ocean. For me especially, like I need to have the water, feel the water beneath my toes. Like there's something about being in nature that is just calming, right? I don't know if it's all the negative ions or if it's, the eyes, they're seeing these beautiful bright colors that's necessary, if it's the sunlight that's giving us that energy, but we needed a place that just had very easy access to nature.
Well, I mean, that's what human beings are made for, right? We're made to be in nature, and living in a city is very overstimulating. And being in proximity to so many people. Like I noticed that when I'm back in Vancouver, we live downtown, and you look out the windows and it's just construction, tons of buildings. I mean, Vancouver has a lot of beautiful nature around it, but a lot of gray and
noisy,
cars,
like honking. And
and you go down on the streets. It's just, you're in proximity to thousands and thousands of people, and part of us as human beings, the animal part of us, still has a fight or flight mode, because every human being once upon a time, and still currently, it still can be a threat, and so in a way it's, and especially, I find that even more so, I think downtown is now there's homeless people, drug addicts, how many times you walk down the street and you're like, okay, there's this guy that's yelling and talking to himself right now, might not be the safest.
But in places that it wasn't before, there used to be like a street where you would, kind of avoid, and now it's just everywhere.
So, anyways, when we were set on Hawaii, and that was kind of the path we were going down. And then we ended up coming back to Panama just for a bit. We could only spend so much time in the U.S. at the time. And we were actually exploring going to Mexico, Tulum, or back to Costa Rica. We spent some time in Tamarindo a few months, or go back to Panama. But we wanted to be on the beach. And so we chose Panama. We found a great rental in this great community. And when we came here, we were just blown away by how nice it was. Previously, we mostly spent time in Panama City, which we're not big fans of.
Not a fan.
Yeah,
no.
It's just a little bit too chaotic for us.
Just no infrastructure, like or poor. Like, okay, there's infrastructure, but like, can I have a sidewalk, please?
Yeah. I mean, compared to probably other parts of Central America, Panama's infrastructure is really good, but compared to North America, it's like, you're not going to be walking down the street with your stroller, and your baby, and then your dog or something like that. It's just not really.
Well, and that was one of the motivations for finding this beach place, because I was like, I'm going to, if I'm going to be there for a while, like I'm going to have a baby and,
settle down. Yeah.
So we discovered this community, and I was just like, check.
Yeah.
It's really meeting all of my desires. What I love about it is that Stefan and I were both very active people. We like to be outdoors. We like to use our bodies. And here, you've got the gymnasium, you've got the beach, you've got all these beach clubs, you've got the golf course. You've got an equestrian center. You've got the marina where you can take out the boats or go jet skiing. It really
bike riding, tennis paddle.
Yeah, it's like it's got all those things. And wait a minute, we can live on the beach. And it's not just like, a beach. It's an amazing beach. It's beautiful. We have a good amount of sand before we reach the water. Like right now we're recording this, we're looking out at the beach, our backyard. We have some grass and then it's just the beach. And it's literally a dream.
Yeah, and especially then, so when we came here and then we compared it, well, this is like a third of the price of what it costs in Hawaii. And in Hawaii, you're not really going to build a house in Hawaii. You're going to buy a house. It's going to be a smaller lot. It's going to be a smaller house. It's going to be an older house that's maybe 20 years old or whatever. It's not going to be as modern. It's not going to be in a community because when you look in Oahu, all the beachfront houses, they're kind of like a lot of them. Sometimes they're like on a highway, so it's like your front yard, you have a front yard, but then there's like a highway. It's busy cars
it's
and
not
everything.
Ideal for small children.
Yeah. So, you're not going to have easy access to a gym and all those amenities that you mentioned. And then a lot of the beachfront homes don't have pools. So, when we did the comparison and then if you want to have a nanny and a housekeeper and a chef and things like that, in Hawaii, those things are very expensive. Mm-hmm. And so compared to Panama, really inexpensive to have those things. Very for the cost of one cleaner in Hawaii, you could have 3 here in Panama, 4 probably. So your money goes much, much further and the quality of life that you can have is so much better. And we weren't planning on building a house. That was not our interest because we were ready to start a family, settle down. We don't have time to build a house. But when we came here, there was only so many houses that were on the beach. We saw one that we liked that was available for sale, but then it got sold. So that disappointed us. And so there was just nothing else really. And so you could get a house out not directly on the beach, across the street from the beach. But that was nope, it has to be on the beach.
We said, hey, listen, if we're going to live in Panama, we're going to live on the beach. Exactly, we're not going to live a house over from the beach.
Yeah, because I also know the interesting thing is, so when we came, we rented a house across the street from the beach. And
guys, this is how lazy we can be.
Yes. So there's a big difference living directly on the beach versus 2 minutes from the beach, 5 minutes, 10 minutes from the beach, etc. Even if you're 5 minutes from the beach, you just don't use it as much versus when you're right there. When you're right there, just the ease of access, you're there, there's just versus I've got to cross the street.
When we stayed in Oahu in Hawaii, we were not we could see the beach from our apartment window. You could see the ocean, but it was still 15 minutes to get there. So it's not like we were going every day.
Yeah, we stayed in Ala Moana, and it's, even though you're oh, it's right there. You're just lazy, I guess.
So now, one of the highlights of my day is every single morning, Lucas and I, and oftentimes Stefan, we get up. And Kobe. We get up in the morning, and, so here 6:30 sunrise, 6:30 sunset. It's nice and predictable. And so we get up at 6 and we make our way over to the beach and we watch the sunrise. And we are so blessed to catch the sunrise on the side of where we live. And we watch the sunrise. We walk on the beach together. Kobe is getting, Stefan's throwing the ball for him. He's running in and out of the water. And now Lucas is playing on the sand. And Lucas, every morning I take him for a naked swim. I strip his clothes off him and he goes in the water and he gets all that healthy sea salt water on his skin. And also that morning sunlight is very important, getting that vitamin D. And it's magical. This is the dream amazing. That we had for our family. It couldn't be any better. I wake up every day and I get to start my day feeling so blessed and feeling so grateful. And so we walk along the beach and we ask each other, what are you grateful for?
And that always was from the very first conversation, we had our first date, it was living beachfront, and for me, I think I've shared on my YouTube channel, my ideal perfect day, because I break down exactly the time I woke up, where I'm living, my morning ritual, and et cetera. And now I'm living that, living of going out first thing in the morning, going for a walk. You have your beautiful family, beautiful environment. You're thinking about what you're grateful for. You're getting, you're doing grounding first thing in the morning as well.
Exactly. So it feels so great because you're doing so much good for your body. You're helping your circadian rhythm by seeing sunlight first thing in the morning, and so that helps balance things out. Your feet are touching the ground, so you're getting that grounding, earthing benefits. You are getting the negative ions from being in nature, being exposed. You're getting the benefits from having sunlight touch your skin and enter your eyes. Like there's and you're just
listening
feeling
to the ocean,
good.
just soothing your nervous system.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're incredibly blessed and we're grateful every day for it.
Yeah. So for us, we went to the sales office here. They had a sales office because they do a lot of pre-constructions that you can buy. We're in a community that there's a lot of development that's happening. There's, it's a massive, massive property with many amenities and whatnot. There's a hotel here. There's a equestrian center. There's a zoo. It's kind of like in a tourist part along the Pacific Ocean here in Panama. And we went to the sales office and they kind of sold us on building a house, which we originally were just kind of curious, but
but
the idea of it,
I'm not interested.
Once we kind of let it sit and we did a pros and cons, evaluated, okay, if we went to the US, cost, the lifestyle, etc., all the pros, all the cons. We did the pros and cons here. There's some cons here as well, trade-offs that we've made, but ultimately this won, building a house won. And the cons for us was, we don't want to spend 2+ years building. We don't want to deal with the frustration, et cetera, but ultimately the benefits far outweighed it. Mm-hmm. And now kind of getting more specific into what we've been up to the last few months. I mean, everything has been going, I'd say really, everything has gone really well with this house because it was more of like a pre-construction, working with like the best developers in Panama, I think. Good to work with. We got to make a lot of modifications, a lot of floor plan changes, the pool.
It feels like
infrared sauna.
It feels like we were able to create a custom home.
Yeah, we customized a lot. Didn't do everything from scratch. They kind of had a floor plan that we played around with and a design and everything, but added in changed a lot of things for it. And we hired a designer who we've been working with for the last 2 years as well, and going through a lot of the changes that we wanted to do, a lot of the woodwork that you're even just seeing inside our guest house. We did that, and there's been a lot of decisions that have been involved in this process, but everything's gone really well. I'd say the last few months, though, it's been like around November time, that's when things got really crazy for us, where this house has basically become a full-time job. There's no way that we would have been able to run a business while we've been doing what we've done over the last few months. Yeah. So for us, furnishing a house, this is like a 7,000 square foot house.
No, it's 8,000.
7,000. Yeah. So it's a massive house. A lot of furniture that we got, but a lot of things that we have to import here to Panama because you just can't get certain things in Panama that you can get in North America. So we've imported hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of products from the United States. Some of those we've arranged ocean freight, sea shipments from, hiring, moving truck companies to pick things up for us, importing products. But it's been a lot. It's been very overwhelming, everything that we've done. And
it's been very stressful. Like it's really taken its toll on us. Not only that, but we've had contractors in and out of this house, like 30 people a day.
Well, we moved in. So originally we were hoping, when they told us it would take like a year and a half is like what you're hopeful for,
Never
right?
listen to them.
The hope that they're selling you is, a year and a half usually is what it takes. And then, we actually negotiated in our contract that it can't take more than 2 years. If there is, then they have to give us like a certain percentage back, to incentivize them. Because that was our fear. We didn't want to wait years and years, have it be delayed. Yeah. But they really stretched it out to that 2-year point. But we were very optimistic that it'd be ready by Christmas. And so we had a rental when we came back here in September. We were getting a lot of things ready, checking the job site, buying things, storing things. We had storage, units and storing things in our apartment that we rented. But the rental was only available till Christmas because the owners wanted to occupy it for Christmas. And so, here we are, November. Okay, it could be ready by then. They kind of telling it's already been delayed, but November it should be ready. And then it's not ready in November. And then December, it's like, okay, like, is this happening? Like, can you guys tell us? Like, can we move in yet? Like, when is this going to be done?
You're just totally in the dark.
Yeah, you're in the dark, and you're kind of always, you're kind of being sold false hope, but you're like, okay, you know, before Christmas for sure. Like that's for sure we thought. And finally, okay, they're going to clean everything. We were working with the furniture company and move everything in. And so we're very optimistic, like the week or so before Christmas, we're going to be moved in. And then sure enough, it wasn't ready. And we had to then find another rental to move into.
We moved into that rental on Christmas Eve.
Moved all the stuff. I mean, we had a crib. We had, you know, all these things
stuff
for Lucas.
Yeah.
So it was a lot. It was pretty stressful. And then you're just kind of not sure when things are going to be ready and when you're moving in. And you're just kind of, just fatigued at that point. Living out of a suitcase.
But then it comes to the realization that, okay, well, even if I'm allowed to move in and the house is technically ready for me to move in, isn't even a safe environment for me to move in with my child.
It was kind of like ready, but then like the air conditioning wasn't working, and
but not only
all the
that,
off gases,
all of the extra
fumes
stuff.
of the new house.
So we made a lot of modifications to this home, and there's a lot of things that, you know, the project wrapped up a lot of their work, but now we are coming in with our guys, our contractors, to do the woodwork, to do this and that. And so we now had tons of people in the house every single day, and it wasn't like a great environment to move Lucas into. So we ended up staying at that rental for a lot longer than we thought, like 3 weeks or so. And then before we moved into this house. And bottom line is, you know, it's been like, now that we're moved in and now that we're almost at the end of all the work that's being done, it's starting to be enjoyable. Like we just got the pool filled like yesterday, you know, like Stefan hasn't even been in the pool yet. I went in once. And you know, we're starting to enjoy things, but it was a very stressful and tiresome process.
It's basically the way I could summarize it. Like when you go into building a house, you know that, okay, you know, it's going to probably take longer. Everyone says that, you know, it's going to take you longer than what you expect. Probably going to cost you more than what you expect.
Oh yeah,
right?
budget,
you have a budget
out the window.
And there's going to be some frustrations and challenges with it. That was true, but a lot more than what I would have expected. There's a lot of, you know, a lot more expense than what you could even imagine. You can't even anticipate. You can't even, like, you're just naive. You don't know. You're ignorant to really what it will cost, because there's just always this expense, that expense. We need to do this. We need to do that. We need to add that, you know, working with electricians, working with this contractor, working with the plumb. Like there's just so many additional things involved in it. And each thing from, you know, the smart automation, like this is a smart home where we've got cameras, we've got, control 4 system set up with alarm system and with in-ceiling speakers and a home theater system and all these different aspects that we've done for this house. I mean, even that has been a huge, huge project with so many moving pieces to it, and this not working, and, you know, this camera's not where we got to fix this, and this it's not recording recording things properly. We got to fix that, and the alarm system's going off in the middle of the night.
So now that we've scared you all away from building a house,
there's just so many things that can be so frustrating in this process, and it feels like it's never going to end, you know. And but you just have to keep. But I mean, what I'm getting to is, like, it's been such a big undertaking that sometimes from morning to evening, like, you have all these contractors, you're directing them. I don't speak Spanish. Tatiana does.
I'm feeling bad for you just listening to this.
She's having to, you know, deal with different people, and things are not organized that well as they should have been and planned as they should have been. And it's just, oh my gosh. Like, I definitely, like, I have a lot of regrets in many ways, because the cost that it's had to our mental health, our happiness, which for me is the most important. Like, for me, like, I want to live a happy life. I want to have peace of mind. For me, that's what's most important. I'm not willing to compromise it for money or even a house. But the toll it takes on that, on a marriage, on your business, and other opportunities that are available, it's a big cost and trade-off. You're consuming a lot of pain without the benefit. You know, all the expenses, all the money that's going out, you know, for this, for the benefit that I know will come. That's why if you were to ask me a year from now, where all the pain is now gone and subsided and forgotten about, and now we're really enjoying it and and getting all the rewards of it, then I'll have a different perspective. But for the most part of just months of just constant frustration,
I release you of the pain.
there's some healing I need to do from this. There's some traumas that I've experienced that, but there's been a lot of growth and experience and development that's
true. We've
come
learned a
from this
lot
too.
about a lot of things that we never thought that we would need to know about. I can't even explain some of the things that I've learned about, stone floors and like just things that I never would have needed to. So there's
floors,
been, we've
like
matured in many ways and learned a lot, and maybe have some conversational pieces that we can now
we have a lot of
chime in.
stories we can tell you, a lot of not like things that do not make any sense that you're dealing with.
Now, having said all that and scaring all of you away from building a house, it is such an amazing thing to do for your family, because the only reason we did this is because we knew that we were going to be here for the next 10 plus years, and that this probably won't ever be a house that will sell. Maybe we won't live here for the rest of our lives. Maybe we want to live in a different continent, have some new variety, but this is a house that we're going to pass on to our children, and hopefully they pass it on to their children. So we invested all of this because we knew that this was going to be here for generations to come. And so we're excited, and I think we're going to do a house tour video for you guys. I'm sure that a lot of you are curious to see what it is that we're just talking about, all of these different things. So I don't know when we're going to get around to doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing, amazing home. I have nothing to complain about, really, at the grand scheme of things. And yeah, I'm excited to do a tour. I mean, I feel like everything is not quite fully ready, but it actually takes a lot of time to get all those finishing pieces on a house. I'd like to do a tour when everything really is, but at the same time, I don't want to wait that long either. So we'll probably do a house tour video soon. But
if you were to ask me, if I were to do it again, knowing what I know now, I would say yes, because it really is my dream home. I really feel like it's perfect for my family. I love my bathroom. I love my closet. I love everything. And it's there's nothing really that I would change. And so to be this content and this happy with a home, I think is really special. And so I'm really grateful for it. All the stress and pain is in the past, and we can move forward now. Yeah.
So that's a little bit about the experience. We'll do a tour video at some point for you guys. So stay tuned for that. Do you want to transition, talk about something else? Maybe parenthood? I mean, that's been the other main thing that has changed our lives significantly. And, we're at a bit of a different stage now than we were a few months ago in the infant stage. And I'd say for us, I'd say our house and being parents has been the two main focuses of what we've gone through over the last year or so. This house has just really consumed us like a full-time job, a full-time business, where you don't really have as much time as you'd like to for me with this house, it's really gotten me off track with a lot of things, like a lot of habits and routines. There was a time we both didn't go to the gym for a while. We just, there just wasn't the time to, and we kind of made a decision, let's just focus on finishing this house and then get back into a balanced life and get back into a lot of those things. And so now it's nice we've been able to kind of ease in, settle in a little bit more, get back even to like doing a podcast. That was not something we could even thought about 2 months ago, a month ago, 3 months ago.
A week ago.
A week ago, yeah. It was just today. I was like, hey, got everything set up. So
yeah. So what can I say about parenthood? Man, it's changed my life, and it's been a roller coaster. I did not have an easy birth experience. It was very challenging. I had a 40-hour long labor, and I had contractions very early on. So a good portion, and because I was planning for a home birth without any medication, so I had contractions very early on, very intense, very painful, but totally expecting that and totally okay with that. But unfortunately, it didn't lead to the birth I was expecting. It led to a C-section birth because Lucas just did not want to come out
wasn't ready.
through the passageway. He decided he wanted to stay in there. And so ultimately that was the way he came forth into the world. And so although I am not a fan of, being in the hospital and not a fan of elective C-sections and all of that, I am 100% happy and grateful for the hospital and the doctors and everyone who was able to help bring Lucas into this world, and really grateful that we had access to such great doctors and a team. And there's so much I can say about that. So I'm gonna fast
You've already
forward
done
the
a
whole
video,
birth.
I think, talking about that.
I did. So if you guys are interested in actually hearing about the birth and all the details of that, you can go watch that video on my channel. But about being a parent, I guess what I can say is that, now Lucas is 10 months. And what I'm so grateful for is being able to dedicate the last 10 months to him. Yeah. Yes, of course, I've been busy with the house and all these other things, but really been able to focus my energy, my time on being a mom for him. And I've realized how valuable that is. I've watched how important it is, how it's shaped him, how just being available and being there for him, he's really developing beautifully, and he's got such a joy in his eyes. And it makes me really sad to know that there are moms out there who don't have that ability to be at home with their babies, who they give birth and 6 weeks later they need to be at their job, or 3 months later they need to be at their job. And to me, that is really a tragedy for the mother, but also a tragedy for society. And I don't think people realize why that is. Of course, for the mother, the reasons are obvious, because a mother wants to be, for the most part, a mother wants to be with her infant, with her baby. It's biologically embedded into us, because the baby needs us. But for society at a large, because babies, children, they need their primary caregiver to be available for them to help build that secure attachment. And of course, attachment is built throughout the first several years of a child's life, and it evolves throughout the childhood. But in the first year of that baby's life, it's critical. That baby needs to know that you're there so that it can go out and it can explore and it can discover, and that when it comes back, you're going to be there for him or her. And so there's like 5 decades worth of attachment theory that is out there, that's available. It's been extensively researched, and the findings are available, but society doesn't always recognize it. And I don't know why, because it really is critical. Because what happens is, if the child doesn't form a secure attachment with their caregiver, then later in life, we were just watching last night an episode of an Oprah's show with, do you remember what his name was?
Harville Hendrix.
That's
Dr.
right.
Harville Hendrix.
So he had couples on his show, and he was talking about how when you have unresolved childhood problems, those will show up in your primary relationships in life, in your intimate relationships in life. And they will continue to show up in those relationships until you use those relationships as an opportunity to grow and to resolve those problems. And so a lot of people find that, they attract the same person as their parent. My dad was this way, and I attracted the same type of man in my life. Well, that is the result of an unresolved problem from your childhood, and that person's in your life to help you to resolve that problem. So you can use that relationship as an opportunity to grow. And one thing that he doesn't mention, but is a critical piece of that, is that if the child in childhood developed a secure attachment to their primary caregiver, there wouldn't be those unresolved problems. Mm-hmm. And so that is critical, because then the child grows up and enters society as an adult and enters the relationships without all of those unresolved problems, so they can freely be themselves, and to be themselves without the conflicts that they're oftentimes unconscious of, that requires a lot of work to first bring to their conscious mind and then to resolve. And so it's such an important thing. And I just feel like I'm so lucky, and I feel so blessed to be able to spend every day with him. And I just feel like I wish that I wish that every mother had that choice. And, it has to be a choice, right? If maybe you don't want to, but if that is what you want, you should have that option. And unfortunately, in places like the US, like there's no maternity leave. And I don't understand that.
Yeah. Well, they just, in our society, they value productivity and money and,
that's the thing.
all of that stuff is more important than the development of our society of human beings.
But that's the false claim, is that in North America, we value families. Okay,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
How do you value families? Show me by supporting the mothers.
Yeah. And I mean, the challenge with that is that because the United States especially is such a form of capitalism more than anywhere else in the world, I mean, and the economy does so well, etc., it's like they don't want to, it'd be, I guess, such a significant drop in the productivity and the efficiency of the economy if women weren't working X period of time. It would hurt businesses, maybe less businesses be inclined to hire women for that purpose. I don't know. But yeah, it's not, it's not the most conducive for the development of human beings. And some places in Europe, they give much better maternity leave. They value that more. Yes, they're not as great of an economy, not as much wealth as there is in the United States, but it's not all about that, right? And that's where you have to shift your values. And I think that's, obviously not every woman has that opportunity to be a stay-at-home mom because the cost of living is so much as well. But I think, for us, the saving grace and the thing that we can always point to that we're so grateful for is having an online business. And I'm so grateful that that's now an option for people, and an option for women, an option for moms, because how many women follow you that are moms and they want to build an online business? Because why go to work at a job and leave your child with someone else at a daycare or whatever it might be, when instead every preference, I think, for most women that are moms would want to be at home with their child and to have something that has flexibility. They can be at home. I mean, yes, some jobs you can work from home now, a lot of remote work and everything, especially since COVID. But I think that is probably more of an ideal situation for many women, and is why many of them are attracted to an online business. They're attracted to you and what you teach and share. And I think that's such a privilege that I think, having that freedom has allowed you to, over the last 10 months, to be able to raise them in the ways that you've wanted to.
I'm grateful every single day for it. I'm grateful every single day for this financial freedom so that I can have this time with him. And it's all thanks to building the online business and to making, good sums of money so that we can both be dedicated to the things that we're interested in. And let me clarify though that I'm not talking about being a stay-at-home mom, because what I'm talking about is the tragedy is when women don't have the maternity leave. So they don't get the choice to spend.
Those early few months are so critical.
Or I honestly think the first year is critical. Like when I look at Lucas now, yes, he's more independent than he was at 3 months old, but he still needs me. I watch him so closely, and I watch how when he goes off and he explores and he discovers something new, he always turns back to look at me to see my expression, because he doesn't know. He's discovering the world for the first time. He doesn't know if something's good, if something's bad, if it's safe. He looks at me to see my expression, to base how he should feel about something. So if I smile and I say, okay, go ahead, then he goes forward. But if I look concerned or if I say no, he resorts back to me. And so he needs me there for that validation so that he can go off and discover the world. And I think that is massively important. And yes, I agree that I am passionate about building an online business for this reason. Now, this is my new reason for continuing to create content and share with people, with women particularly, about the opportunities of building online businesses. I may not be doing it myself right now because I don't need to start another business right now. I'd rather dedicate that time to my son or to my activities that fill me up. But that doesn't mean that I think that it's not necessary. I think it's so valuable for women to be able to make income online. You don't have to go off and build a multi-million-dollar business, but to make enough income to replace your previous job so that you can work from home. And oftentimes with an online business, once you build the foundation and it's up and running, it's going to require far less time than what you would have to commit to your job. And the beautiful thing is you can log in the morning and spend an hour or two working, go visit your child, then come back. Like it's you have that flexibility. And I think it's really opens up the door to a new experience of motherhood. Mm-hmm. I personally think that, and not everyone's going to like this, but I personally think, anyone can become a mother. It happens very easily. It takes work to be a good mother, but it takes dedication to be a great mother. And it takes time dedication to be a great mother. Mm-hmm. And I know that some people think, well, I can, it's quality time versus quantity. But I don't think that's the case at this age. It is about quantity. If you're gone all day, and we have a nanny, and I don't even use her for the time that she's here. I don't use her all that time. I like to go in and I like to spend time with Lucas, and I like to be there because I know that if I did that, he now, it's great that she loves him and that she has a great relationship with him. I'm very lucky about that. But he's going to build that bond with her. And I want that for myself. Like I want that for us to have that special bond.
Yeah. Well, you've really dived deep into this niche of being a mother, child development. And it's amazing how big of a niche that it is. Like the books that you've read, the audiobooks, the podcasts, the videos, the experts. And there's so much information out there that's available now in terms of developing a secure human being, someone who's happy, someone who's well developed. And there's just so much that we know now that our parents didn't know. Mm-hmm. Like our parents, whenever we share a lot of these things with them, they don't realize how outdated it is, or just like that's the old school way of thinking about it. And there's so much science and studies and all of that. It's now available today. And I enjoyed Dr. Gabor Mate.
I love him.
Who's an expert on trauma, and he talks about the abandonment of children at such a young age and the trauma that produces, and just how unnatural that it is, and how it affects things. And I think, yeah.
Yeah, so for example, those of you guys listening, think of if there's any unresolved childhood conflicts in your life and how that comes up in your relationship and how it can make being in relationships so difficult. And that's why they say that your partner is your spiritual teacher and your child is your spiritual teacher. Because what they do is, those are the two closest relationships in your life if you have children. They're so close. And because they're so close, they will mirror you. And so you now see things in them that irritate you, that trigger you. And instead of running away from those things or telling your partner to not say that or whatever it is, it's like you have to take it upon yourself and see that as an opportunity that, wow, that trigger is highlighting something in me that's unresolved. Mm-hmm. And they're my spiritual teacher because they're featuring that, they're showcasing that in me. I'm allowed to now discover this thing that was previously unconscious, and it's come to my conscious awareness that I can now resolve it. And that, when you resolve that, that liberates you on a whole new level. And then you have a much better relationship with your partner. You have a much more authentic and natural relationship with your children. You stop projecting your own issues. Yeah. And it allows you to be in relationship with people, with everyone in your life, beautifully. And relationships become so much easier. And so if we all, are able to raise secure children, we alleviate them of the burden of going through life now needing to resolve all of that, that stuff. It's huge. And so that's why, yes, I have consumed a lot of content. I've learned a lot, but it's because I see parenthood as a huge responsibility. Like I said, I don't just want to be a mother, I want to be a great mother. And to me, that means realizing what that responsibility is. And that every decision I'm making for him, I'm making on his behalf. I'm making it on his behalf, and I need to make sure that that's something that is going to benefit him for many years to come. I'm not just on a whim making a decision about his health, which is something that I spend a lot of time on, because there's so many decisions when you have a baby that you make regarding their health. Mm-hmm. From, vaccines, from circumcision, from when they get sick, what are you giving them, from, there's so many decisions that you make on behalf of that baby who cannot speak. And to me, that weighs heavily. And so, I research a lot, but then I feel very good about the decisions I make, because I feel like I really weighed out all my options.
Yeah, there's so much here that I think is exciting, is that you can share a lot of this. And that's, as you said, one of your new purposes for doing this is that you have a lot to share, a lot of things that you've learned that that you've been able to benefit from, that I think a lot of people don't have the opportunity to learn. They don't have the time to learn. You know, you've gone really, really deep into this and you're very passionate about it. And I think a lot of people can benefit. And I think going back to an online business, like, again, not everyone has that same opportunity. I think can be a very sensitive subject for mothers, because every mother wants to do the best they can and they feel a sense of guilt when, you know, they do have to go back to work, or they do, you know, they do have to use a daycare, whatever it is. And it's very difficult to maybe, you know, acknowledge, you know, that, maybe, you know, things are not the most ideal circumstance, because you don't want to feel guilty. You don't want to feel bad about yourself. And so it's a very sensitive thing.
It's not about that.
But
people feel defensive about that because they don't want to feel that guilt. But what I'm saying is the tragedy is in the system. It's the social construct that we have right now, where we value success and making money above the family. And we've all been indoctrinated to think that way. In North America, at least, when you go and you travel, that's the beauty of traveling, and you experience other cultures and you see, you know, how people do things in other countries. And you go to, for example, Greece, and, you know, at 12 o'clock, do you see any of the stores open? So
a lot of stores, they close during the day because, you know,
so you would never see that in capitalist North America. That's money wasted. That's money, potential earnings that are gone. But they're like, no, we need to have our break. We need to have our siesta. We need to take our, you know, time for lunch. And so they have a different value system than we do. And so I think, like, the tragedy here is that value system. And the mother's not to blame for this. The mother who needs to go to work to support her family is not to blame for this.
And I think that, again, is why we're so passionate about an online business. I think, you know, for us, it's something that when we look at our lives, it's up there, being like one of the most powerful things that have transformed our lives, because having an online business and what that provides in terms of the freedom, the flexibility, the options it provides, has allowed us to use the money, the resource called money, and that time, which is also a resource, to invest that into our education, into a relationship, into being a better parents, into a lot of different things. And I think what's now emerged for us is how the greatest benefit has really been how now we're able to raise a child and develop him into this world. Before, the benefits of, like, an online business were so much more superficial. You know, I can buy nice things, and I can live in a nice house, and I have freedom to travel and all that. Those things are cool. Those are great benefits, but not nearly as much as what we've now discovered as the greatest benefits of when you have a family, and also you can have the time, the resources to be able to grow and develop yourself in the ways that we've been able to. The spiritual development that we've both been able to also do over the last year or so has been immense and powerful for us in our lives. That being able to retire, being able to be financially free, has allowed us to go deeper into these other aspects of life that are just much more meaningful and important, that unfortunately most people never will have that opportunity to, because most people, they work 40 hours a week until they're 65, 70 years old to retire, and they don't have the time to do a lot of what we've been able to do. And that's, you know, for us, those reasons now, those benefits have reinforced in us how important an online business is, and why we feel confident to share it with people, share different opportunities, promote it, because it's just worth it.
But online business, we say, because it's like the fastest route to creating your financial freedom. Like, if you're just gonna, you know, stick to a traditional job, it's gonna take you, even if you have a really great paying job, it still takes you years and probably decades to amass the wealth that you need to be financially free. And, you know, financial freedom is relative, right? It's relative to your lifestyle and what it is that you want. So there's people who are financially free who are living in vans, and, you know, they are traveling that way, and they're happy. And that's great. That's fantastic. So yeah, online business has for us, I mean, we can only speak from our experience, and for us, we see it time and time again as a pathway to creating something really special.
So how about we do a few more things before we wrap up? Let's just stick with business a little bit for another 5 or 10 minutes. But yeah, like, what do you see right now as if you were starting today? You know, obviously the world's very different today, but, like, what do you see as opportunities And what do you see yourself also as a content creator? You know, you haven't been as engaged in business, but you're still passionate about it. You know, it's changed your life. You're not in the trenches as much as you used to, but also where do you see yourself being able to contribute to people in that area?
Yeah, I mean, for me as a content creator, like I said, what I want to do is I just want to share things that I'm passionate about. And right now my passions lie in personal growth, spirituality, family, motherhood, and health. And for me, those are like some of the most important areas of life. And so I make it a priority for myself to commit time every day to work on those areas of my life. And you know, I might not get to everything every day, but it has to be a priority, because if I'm not growing in those areas, then I'll just be, you know, stagnant, and I won't feel really fulfilled. I think the fulfillment comes from feeling like you are growing as a human being, and we all grow, like it's inevitable, but to be growing in the direction that you want to grow. And so that's the stuff that I'm going to share. And of course, with business, I think business is also really important, as we mentioned. And so if there are things that I come across, like, you know, the benefit of being where I'm at right now is that I have a lot of contacts. I have a lot of people that reach out to me with opportunities and new things. And so I get a lot of access to things that the average person probably wouldn't know about. And so because of my position with, you know, my Tatiana James YouTube channel and the niche that I'm in, I really get a lot of things thrown on my desk that I come across that are potential really great opportunities. And most of them are, you know, I'm not interested in, I don't think it's really great. But once in a while I come across something really interesting, or something that has really great results, and something that just seems like, wow, I gotta share this. And so when I do come across those things, I'm really excited to share them with people, because even though I may not be taking that business myself, or building that business myself, like I said, because I don't either want to, or I just don't want to put the time into that. I'd rather put that in other things, because I'm not at the stage now where I need to be making money. I'd still like to share those opportunities, because there's other people who are starting from zero, and they're trying to figure out, well, okay, I know I want to build a business, an online business. I just don't know what path to take. And that's the hardest part sometimes, is getting started, because right now there are so many options online. And I always get people asking me, but I just don't know which direction to go in. And so one thing that we've both been trying to do over the years with our YouTube channel is to share with people these different opportunities. Like, here's this, and there's FBA, and there's wholesale, and there's publishing, and there's affiliate marketing, and there's all these options. And you know, this is who it's for, and this is what you need to know about it. And based on this information, you decide what's the best path for you, because it's different for everyone. There's not necessarily one that's better than the other, but there is one that's better than the other for yourself personally, based on your personal experience, your skill set, your interests, and your income, what you can dedicate to building that business.
Yeah. I mean, I can echo that too. I think there's so many opportunities now. Especially with AI. AI has really opened up a lot of doors, but we're not as familiar with the details as much as we used to be. You know, back when we're really focused on our business, we were involved in all of those different businesses, running multiple businesses. We're doing a lot, and we're not quite in those trenches. I think mostly because like Tatiana said, we don't need to like go back and be in those trenches. We don't need to work hard to try to make some money like we used to and everything. But we're in a very different position now, but also have a different perspective where we do get a lot of opportunities thrown at us. And there's a lot that I'm like, wow, this is really great. And if I did have the time, sometimes I want to do things just for fun, just like, oh, it'd be fun as a project to, go down this path. Because, business still is like a fun thing to do.
It's creative.
It's like an art form and everything. But, for us, when we weigh the other things that we could also invest our time into, we value those things a little bit more. But we still want to share them. We still want to share with people and encourage it. And there's more options today than when we first started. There's more opportunity. In some cases, it's easier to make money. Some cases, it can be more competitive. But I think overall, as a net, it's net easier because of the number of opportunities, the speed of which that you can do things today with AI, being able to outsource things, doing things much more inexpensively than you previously could. there's so much opportunity right now with
just
ChatGPT.
the knowledge out there, just there's so much information you can get your hands on, and a lot of it for free.
Yeah, and AI has opened up so many opportunities as well. So we can still share those. We can share some of those for you guys. If you guys are interested in that, go to our website, subscribe to us. We'll mention things here and there that we think are valuable, things that we would do if we were getting started today. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot that I think we'll both share, and I'd like to also bring on people to interview, because I think that's always very inspiring to bring on guests that have created amazing success, and great teachers, great mentors, great role models. I think that is a very important thing too, because it shows people what's possible, gets people excited, creates the belief system.
Stories.
And the more references that you have of what is possible for you, if you can find more people that are just like you, average people, similar circumstances, and they were able to do something amazing, then it gives you evidence that you can also do it. And I think it's also useful to hear different perspectives, different mindsets, and all of that. So we're both still passionate about that mindset, success, the process of success. And so those are still things I think we'll talk about, as well as a whole variety of other things too.
What about, so a big part of what we do with business is actually investing. And investing is what led us to where we are today. It's not just the money from our business, because I think that's a mistake a lot of business owners make, is that they take the money and they just put it in their savings account. But it's like, you're not really going to become financially free, because actually when it's just sitting in your savings account, it is depreciating. So what we did is that we invested a lot of our money, and we became investors, and now we're making income from those investments. We have dividend paying stocks where every year we make enough just from those dividends, passive income from dividends, to support our lifestyle. So do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we only have so much more time, because actually I think the memory card is almost full. So we're gonna have to wrap it up, but we'll maybe go into that more in depth in another video. So we'll have to stay tuned for that. But just to quickly comment on that, I mean, I think that's really the key to financial freedom. It's not, your business is a vehicle that allows you to generate a lot of income, and yes, you can make passive income from it, but the longevity of that passive income has a life cycle. If you create a product on Amazon, publish a book, create a blog, create any sort of asset in your business that's making money, you have to still be actively involved to some extent to update it, to keep it relevant, to adapt with the times, etc., in order for that passive income to continue. And so I have passive income, you as well, that's lasted 5 years, maybe longer, but it will decrease as time goes on unless you're actively engaged in some way, shape, or form. And so that was something that we learned earlier on. Still is great, still passive, making money while you sleep and everything, but it's really through investing and what you do with that money, and invest it in assets that will outlive you. The investments that we've been making are investments that can be inherited by our kids, can be in a trust, could outlive us and continue to appreciate, continue to produce income well beyond us, because there's businesses, there's index funds, ETFs, and investments that you could put your money into that will continue, for well beyond our years. And those are the more secure, passive forms of making money. So we'll talk about those. That's another thing that we're quite excited for too. So we're going to wrap it up.
All right.
I think we've been going for about an hour and a half or so.
Oh, feels longer.
Yeah. So we'll have to do another,
I had fun.
It was,
Did you have fun?
it was fun.
Did you like it?
It was nice
It's nice to talk to
I mean,
you.
it just feels like talking like we normally do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So subscribe for more, of course. And we look forward to sharing more with you guys. If you guys want to learn more about other things, other content, other courses, opportunities, etc., go to projectlifemastery.com or tatianajames.com. And again, you can find, if you look on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you get your podcast, if that's the preferable way you want to listen to videos or podcasts like this, then subscribe there as well.
Comment below what you want to hear more of. If you're on YouTube, let us know in the comments section. Is it the investing? Is it parenthood? Is it education? Or something totally different? Let us know.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. We'll see you guys again soon.